All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jordan Hale. I have the privilege of serving as Director of New Student Programs here at Duke, and we're really excited to welcome you all. We hope your orientation week is off to a great start, and we know that this panel and conversation about the Duke Compact is something that is critical and important and will enable us to have a quality experience here during your first year. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Gina McCullers to go ahead and get everything started. Gina?
All right, good afternoon to everyone. I echo Jordan's comments. Welcome to the class of 2024. You all may not know this, but it has felt like an eternity to get to this point. A lot of planning and preparation has gone into this moment to bring you all together virtually and in person with COVID expectations in mind and to produce the best experience possible for you all during a pandemic. This is a unique experience. You all may hear Power Rangers in my background because I'm doing this from home while I'm working with my son remotely. But it's still part of your story, and it will be as great as you want to make it. There's been a lot of information you've received about the Duke Compact, the DCS Guide, and COVID-19 undergraduate policy plan, and it may feel like these documents do not work together and they're independent of each other, but that's just not the case. All of these documents are connected. And I want to provide just a little bit of clarity, and I'm hoping that the panel today will help respond to some of the major questions you all may have surrounding some of these documents. But let me just help with the framework for a little bit. The Duke Compact applies to everyone, the students, staff, and faculty. Like, I have acknowledged and attested that I will abide by the Duke Compact. And with under that umbrella of the Duke Compact, there are policies that are unique just to students. Similarly, there are policies that are unique to staff and faculty. And we had a document, and we do currently have a document that applies to undergraduate students and policies. And that's our Duke Community Standard, our guide for students. We call it the DCS Guide for short. And that document's always been in existence. But the pandemic presented this very unique situation in which we had to address some potential policy violations or just student behaviors. So instead of redoing our whole DCS guide, what we did was we made an addendum to that, and that's the COVID-19 expectations. So if you're watching today, then you probably have, for the most part, most of you have already attested to your commitment to abide by these policies. But like I indicated, you may still have questions. So we have a panel of guests here to help you better understand what your membership in this community means. And I think the best way for us to get started is with Dean John Blackshear, who transitioned into his role as of August 1st. Dean Blackshear is also a faculty in residence in Trinity Dorm, and he's a former academic dean. So this means that he lives here, lives on campus, and is familiar with student life and academics. So Dean Blackshear, why don't you get us kicked off and just talk a little bit about how you're hoping students live up to the Duke Compact.
All right, hello everyone. I may have met many of you over the last week or so. My name is John Blackshear. I go by Dean Blackshear or Dr. Blackshear, or Professor Blackshear, whichever of those you choose. I do live on campus with my family, my wife Kimberly, and 4 of our 6 children, the faculty in residence in Trinity Dorm. My faculty employment's over in psych and neuroscience, and I teach forensic psychology here at the university. But the most interesting part of what I do is I've recently, as of last week, become your new Dean of Students. And I want to start out by saying that, echoing Gina McCullers' points, that this was no light undertaking in deciding to have students return to the university. We had to really think about a lot of things. We had to think about you and your safety. We had to think about the people who work here, the faculty, the staff. We had to think about the Durham community. And what we hedged on was that we are inviting some of the brightest, caring, sensitive, aware, conscientious people to this campus. And if we give them parameters for functioning within this space, even though we're in a pandemic, because we know how important it was for you to be able to get started with your college career and be here in this space, we hedged that if we presented that to you, that you would take that mantle and take it so very seriously. Because I know there's not one of you would want to be responsible for the failing health of yourselves, your fellow students, the staff who take care of you, the staff who live with you, the faculty who will teach you, and the city that you're living in. That's where we hedged. And I must say, as you all are aware, very, very, very well aware, that many of you are holding us down. You're doing exactly what we expected. And I have to acknowledge that there are some of you who are not. I asked one young woman last night 4 times to put up her mask. I asked one young man last night 6 times to pull up his mask. We see the gatherings and all the rest. And we know that there's a schism that is beginning to already show itself within your class. No one wants that. That's not where we were hedging when we said, let's bring the brightest, most intelligent learners in the known universe to this space. When we welcomed you into this family called Duke, we know who we welcome in. We know who you are. And no one's expecting this to be perfect. That's why we're having this conversation now, so that we can reset ourselves. And let's pull this norm back to mindful behavior on this campus in relation to one another. We know you want to have fun. We know that you want to get to know your fellow classmates. We know you're 18. You're an emerging adult. We know that your brain has a lot of development to do, but we doggone sure know that we have accepted the best students in the world to this place. So what I would like to say when it comes to the compact, don't let the compact become a schism in your class. Don't let the compact down. I want to encourage you to create an environment in which putting yourself, people who work around you, people in school with you, and this community at risk of COVID infection is so aberrant and out of the ordinary for you and against what it means for you to be a Duke. So I'm asking you, we're going to be beyond basic, because being Duke is not basic, baby, not at all. We are excellent. And excellent is mindful, excellent, respectful, and excellent keeps its word. Because when you signed that compact, you gave people your word who took a huge risk during a pandemic to have you welcomed into this family. Duke 2024, those of you who have already met, I'm gonna say it to everybody now. Every single student that is learning under the moniker Duke is my student. And I love every single one, even those I haven't met yet. I'll go to the bat for every single one of you. That's what it means to be a dean of student. That's what it means to be here at Duke, because all of these people on the screen do the exact same thing. Welcome. Let's be great together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Blackshear. I mentioned earlier that some of you are participating in this campus experience here from actually on campus at Duke. Some are in the surrounding Durham communities, and some are, you've decided to remain home and participate in a virtual experience. And I'm hoping that the panel will be able to touch a little bit on each one of those different experiences. But I want to pivot first and talk about residence life. And so when we're discussing residence life, I'm gonna go to Deb and Bernard, and if you'll introduce yourself to the class of 2024, and we can just discuss a little bit broadly about the work your teams have done to create community building opportunities for students to help assist them with honoring the Duke Compact.
Deb, you're first. Thank you, Gina. Welcome, class. It's so great to see all of your faces, even though I don't think I can see everyone. There's over 1,500 in the Zoom at the moment. So we're glad to have you back. And I agree and echo everything that Dean Blackshear has shared. And I am proud of the way our students have come upon campus and have done what they're supposed to do thus far. And those of you who aren't doing that, you know who you are. But in terms of residence life, again, it's Deb Lobiondo. I'm the Senior Associate Dean of Housing and Residence Life, and I oversee most of the time the upper class campus or the returning student campus. This year's a little different. And I'm only overseeing West Campus and part of the Marine Lab. And we've been working diligently to prepare for your arrival. Bernard, my colleague, can speak to what we've been doing in our residence halls to prepare physically for your arrival in terms of cleanliness and some of our new procedures. But our team has been trained to welcome you, and hopefully all of you by now have felt welcomed, and some outreach, although it's very different kind of outreach. And it's important to share that the welcome that you have been accustomed to in the past, at any place for that matter, is going to look a little different because it's virtual. It might be a note under your door, it might be a group meet, it might be a text, it might be a phone call, but it's going to be a little bit different. Our team will engage. We all want to stay safe and healthy together. Our team is prepared to develop, hopefully, a sense of community in our halls with each and every one of you. We have, for the first time since 1995, first-year students living on West Campus, which is new and different for all of us. I believe all of our focus students and many of our athletes are living here on West, along with many other first-year students. And we have a little over 950 students living on East Campus. So it's a weird place to be, where we have first-year students living on two different campuses for the first time at Duke since 1995. And it's going to take some getting used to. We hope that you foster connections with one another. The Duke Compact, and I want to just talk about Res Life specifically with regard to the compact. It is very, very, very important to us, for us to succeed and not close, because we don't want to do that, and no one wants to do that. That you wear your masks while you're in the residence halls. You don't have to wear them in your room, but when you leave your room and you go to the bathroom, you need to put on your mask. When you leave your room to go to the study or to the kitchen or to the commons, you need to have on your mask. And certainly if there's an emergency and there's a fire alarm and you need to evacuate, put on your mask and leave the building. We also will be starting to put up signs very shortly that will reaffirm our occupancy standards in all of our kitchens, all of our studies, and all of our common rooms. We ideally do not want more than 3 people in a room at a time, because there's no way to really socially distance properly given the size of our rooms. I think the largest room we might have on campus is around 250 square feet. And our general practice is that every human needs 100 square feet to adequately social distance. So our rooms are not quite big enough to accommodate that. I think some of you know we have already had to disengage a few gatherings, if you will, of students who have been piling into rooms. And it's wonderful that folks want to get to know each other and make new friends and do all of that. We have to do it in a smart way. We have to do it so that folks stay healthy. The last thing I'll share about residence life in particular is, and Bernard will share a little bit with you about this as well, but we need to respect the folks who are working in our residence halls. We have had folks in our halls all summer long. We've had students living on campus all summer long, but we have folks in our residence halls who are cleaning our public areas, our bathrooms, etc. Please be respectful and mindful that these employees, these full-time employees, are going home to their families. they're trying to take care of themselves and their families. And soon you'll start to see signs on the bathrooms that if you see someone in there cleaning the bathroom or the commons room, please refrain from entering until they're finished doing their work. So that's really, really important to us. And I'm happy to take any questions in the Q&A, and I want to turn it over to my colleague, Bernard.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernard Smith. I'm an associate director here in Housing and Residential Life. I oversee housekeeping operations and on all 3 campuses. Deb and John have, or I should say Dean Deb and Dean John have basically given you a layout here. I'm going to say one thing. We all need to remember that we are ambassadors to health and safety. Remember what I just said, ambassadors to health and safety. We have an obligation to one another to stay safe and to follow safe practices. That being said, housekeeping operations, we have been here all summer, as Deb has alluded to. We have provided cleaning services. We've prepped the residence halls for the students to come in. We started our enhanced cleaning program, which basically consists of cleaning all public areas and restrooms 2 times per day, 7 days a week. We wear our PPE because we want to make sure that not only are the employees safe, but our student population is safe. We've provided a multitude of PPE, from masks to gloves to face shields to protective gowns. We want to make sure that we follow every single step to make sure that this is a clean and healthy and safe environment for everyone. I'm also open to any questions that you might have.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Dean Deb?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we hear these rules and then people automatically, or at least I do, think, well, there's a lot that I can't do. But can you discuss the work your teams or anything you know of, what they've done to help create community building opportunities for students as they, work to help honor the Duke Compact?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a lot with our team about how to create opportunities that are COVID safe, COVID friendly, as we're calling them. So the RA team is gathering ideas from students, whether you enjoy hiking or kayaking or, just going out and having a COVID friendly picnic or something along those lines. I think that there are many RAs who are going to be doing Zumba nights or any kind of recreational kinds of things like that, game nights online, faculty dinners online. There is an opportunity, and there was a question in the chat earlier about, Wanamaker common rooms are probably 1,000 square feet. They're huge. So every commons room is going to have a different capacity number. So Wanamaker could have 10 students in there easily, social distancing, and with masks on, watching movies or something along those lines. So the team has been working extra hard to think outside the box so that we don't have Zoom fatigue and that we can engage. The RAs all know that they're perfectly welcome to, as long as everyone's comfortable, to take walks with their residents and help residents get to know one another. I do know that tonight in your first floor meeting, you'll hear a little bit about the pod concept, and I won't share too much about that, but you'll hear about how to connect with others on your hall and create small pods that you can hang out together with. I hope that answered your question, Gina.
Thank you. I want to kind of keep this theme of community going here, and I want to pivot to Barbara and Marcus. And please introduce yourself. But one way that community usually happens is when people break bread together, right? Like we go out, we eat together. So can we talk a little bit about how dining has prepared students for like this communal impact that COVID's going to have on this kind of a community experience?
Okay, so I'll start. My name is Barbara Stokes. I'm the Director for Residential Dining. And first I want to just say welcome to everybody. We are so excited to to welcome this class here. And, you know, our dining team did a lot of research, and we created a COVID-19 response team to make sure that we understood and understand all of the guidelines that our state and national agencies have set forth for dining. And so our goal was always to make sure that we exceeded those standards. So in doing things, you know, we made sure that all of our staff across campus, whether it's East Campus or West Campus, attended at least 5 COVID-19 training sessions so that they would understand, you know, what we had to do. In all of our locations across campus, you know, social distancing obviously is very important. So whenever you go into a dining facility, you will see that we created travel paths, way to go into our dining facilities, ways to exit them. You'll see markers on the floor with directions. You'll see feet that'll show you where to stand, you know, making sure that everybody is 6 feet apart. We've added stanchions, again, creating that safe space. And then we would ask each of you to follow those, you know, stand where the markers are. Again, it's about keeping you safe. As part of the recommendations, we had to reduce seating in our dining locations to no more than half capacity. So we have done that. At one point, we really wanted to take all seating out, but then we realized that dining is about communal experiences. So we did add back seatings again, making sure that the seats are at least 6 feet apart. You can't eat facing one another, so you'll see that chairs are in one direction. So we ask that you follow that. And also, we added additional outside seating, so sort of to make up for the seats that we lost inside. And, you know, in those areas, we would just ask that you keep social distancing in mind. Our staff is here to help you. We will give you friendly reminders, you know, hey, remember 6 feet. All of our staff will be wearing masks. We ask that, you know, you wear them. You actually cannot come in a dining facility without a mask. We've added safety shields, again, to keep you safe, but also to keep our staff safe. Because as Bernard and Deb said, you know, our families, our employees have families they want to go home to. And in doing our redesign of our locations, we looked at all the menus. We reduced a lot of self-serve items, so reducing the amount of contact or high-touch surfaces. So you'll see that things that traditionally were self-service, we've now started serving them, again, to keep everybody safe. We ask that, you know, there are some prepackaged items that are in locations. There's some fruit and milk and other things that we say, only touch the items that you plan on taking. You know, don't rummage through the basket, because to, again, eliminate the risk of that. We moved to to-go-ware, so that because seating is limited, that you can take your food, whether it's back to your dorm, where you can sit in small groups, again, being socially distant, or you can make use of the outdoor seating. And then we also added across campus, we added more locations to our mobile ordering, so that you can take advantage of not actually having to come into a location and place an order. Order it through the mobile order and then go, you know, pick it up. We will be adding some locations across campus where there are specific pickup points in addition to in the locations. And finally, particularly in the marketplace, we extended our hours from last year. If you've heard, you know, we increased the number of hours that the equivalency. So if you can't get to the marketplace and you need to go to Trinity Cafe, we've increased those hours. Again, we wanted to give you every opportunity to have food and again, have it safely in these small environments. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Marcus so he can share some other things.
Thank you, Barbara. So my name is Marcus Carson. I'm the Assistant Director for Sustainability and Quality Control at Duke Dining. Barbara covered pretty much everything, but I just want to reiterate one or a couple of things. One is just emphasizing the importance of empathy towards our Duke team members when you are coming into the facilities. They're just as nervous and excited as you all are, and so the ask is just to consider their comfort and their health and their well-being when you're entering a facility. And it may not seem like a big deal just to pull your mask down for a moment, or to not worry about the standing 6 feet away from somebody at that one moment. But I think, as we all know, those little actions can add up very quickly. And so in addition to signaling to our Duke team members how important their health is, it also signals to your classmates. To address Gina's question about building community, I'll just say this really briefly. There still is an opportunity to build community while you're on campus. You just have to do it a little bit more safely. And that means right now our physical communities, those immediately around us, are just a little bit smaller than normal. And we've tried to create spaces where you can do that with additional outdoor seating and some limited indoor seating. And so we just ask that you respect the way that seating is set up, not move a lot of chairs around a single table or anything like that. And just understand that right now our community building will have to take place in smaller groups for the time being.
Marcus and Barbara, I noticed that there's been a number of questions in the chat about just enforcement. And when I was reading those questions, I realized I did not introduce myself. So my name's Gina McCullers, and I'm the Senior Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Office of Student Conduct. And student conduct does have a role in addressing and enforcing the Duke Compact. And we align our work directly with the educational and developmental mission of the university. And we're here to make sure that ultimately students grow. And we have to balance that with unintentional violations of the Duke Compact, the COVID-19 expectations, with what may be intentional violations. So we understand that there are going to be times when you may forget your mask, or you may be delayed in reporting your symptoms in the daily symptom monitoring app. And when we get notification of that, it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be removed from campus because you violated the Duke Compact. We try to meet those situations with education and development. So you may get a notice from us. I encourage you to respond to those notices. And the goal is to remind you of the policies and practices that are in place for every reason that you've already heard, already stated, so that we keep the campus community safe. And the big takeaway is that the campus community is more than just students. It is students, staff, faculty, but also the families that are, and the loved ones that are tied to us that you don't see every day. But we also recognize there are going to be intentional violations of the Duke Compact. And we plan to meet those flagrant and intentional violations of the Duke Compact with appropriate response. We know that there's been a lot on social media recently about gatherings on East Campus. We have student affairs colleagues, Dean Blackshear, who's on here included, who has spent their evenings partnering with the housing and residence life staff to go around and give reminders to students about the COVID-19 expectations and break up those gatherings. We ask that you all, and we encourage you to report incidents that you see, because we're keeping track of those and we may need to follow up. But I also want to speak a little bit about community, because we've talked a lot about community as it exists on campus with people who are here, but there is a community of Dukies that exist beyond that, right? There's students who are participating virtually, and you're still connected to people on campus, either via social media, through friendships and relationships. And the Duke Community Standard has implied, implicit and explicit in it, that there's a duty to act, So we hope that you will hold your community members accountable and responsible for their actions, even if you're not physically present on campus. Feel free to reach out to any staff member in the Office of Student Conduct at any point in time to not only report an incident, to just ask questions. We're available anytime. You can reach us at conduct@duke.edu, or our information's on the website. So do know that we are receiving your reports. We have received multiple reports. We're following up. We are following up with not only students who are making reports, but with the general community also as well. But I mentioned that we do that from a development and education lens. So the Office of Student Conduct partners with Do Well, and I'm gonna ask Lindsay to talk a little bit about Do Well and the intersections of health and wellness, which we spoke to a little bit, and the COVID-19 expectations.
Thanks, Dean McCullers. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Parker, and I am so excited to be a small part of welcoming you to Duke. I work in Do Well, and we are housed on the first floor of the Student Wellness Center. And we are here to help you re-envision and reimagine ways that you can build community throughout the semester. So we talk a lot about being physically distanced, but this doesn't mean that you have to be socially distanced. Earlier, Bernard spoke about being ambassadors to health and safety, and we're really here to help you learn how to effectively be those ambassadors to health and safety. We have lots of ways for you to practice and maintain your wellness through moments of mindfulness opportunities that are great opportunities for students both on campus and off campus as they're meeting in virtual spaces. But like Dean McCullers did mention, if you have some sort of infraction of the COVID-19 policy, you are going to be coming in for a conversation with our office, Do Well, to facilitate some meaningful dialogue related to evaluating your choices, making sure you don't make those same choices, to help think about this public health responsibility, the collective responsibility we all have together to maintain the safety of everyone in our campus community. And so in these conversations, we will be using educational components, but we will be firm in our commitment to making sure that you're following these rules, but at the same time, tempering these conversations with an opportunity for you to ask questions, making sure that you understand what exactly it is that you did and how you can avoid making that choice in the future. And then again, building on that conversation and making sure you're sharing those takeaways with those people around you. So we're spreading our knowledge and making sure that we all have access to the best public health information. So I think that kind of covers some of what you wanted me to touch on, Dean McCullers, but let me know if there's anything else.
Thank you, Lindsay. So I think what I want to do is pivot right here and shift a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the adults have been talking here about what we expect from students, but I think it's important for them to hear from their peers about the Duke Compact and ways that students can still build communities. I want to start with you, Tommy. And so, you know, there's no COVID-19 police force, meaning that students are going to have to be accountable to each other in community. And I mentioned earlier that this is embodied in the Duke Community Standard, but it's not always easy to do. So how do students take care of each other at Duke?
Yeah, that is the question. I mean, there are ultimately so many more of you than there are of people actively working to kind of manage the public health regulations across the state and across Duke. So it really does come down to student involvement to really upholding these health regulations across campus. Like you've heard across this panel, the health of our faculty, the health of our staff, the health of our Durham community members is of the utmost importance. But if you're not doing it for that, then do it for so many other reasons for you to be on this campus. You can be subject to kind of like suspension or expulsion. You can really limit your opportunities later down the line if you apply to like study abroad or some other engaged programs or a lot of other things. If you see conduct, or if conduct violations are seen kind of within your app, that can be something that restricts your own kind of progress at Duke. So why would you handcuff yourself so early when it's so simple to distance, wear a mask, or just behave, honestly? So again, if you're not doing it for the health of others, just do it for at least yourself. But there are also so many other alternatives to kind of interact with people across this campus. I know you've all seen the orientation programming this week. There's also a full weeks of welcome. Duke Groups is another resource that has a ton of different events for people to kind of like socially distance and still build that community. Your time across Duke is huge. So if you don't feel like you're meeting everybody within a week, that's okay. The people that you are going to grow close with across your years here are definitely not going to be all going to be the people that you meet in your first year. So be open to that change because it's definitely going to happen. And don't feel too pressured to always go out and always meet people, because you need to take time for yourself and have that moment to reflect and kind of have that self-care. So keep that in mind with everything going on. And again, there's just so many resources. I think Asan can speak to this more, but do you use hosting like 2 different movie screenings for like tonight and tomorrow? There's a Duke Memes page to get involved in. There's Minecraft offered by OIT. So there's so many different ways to get involved that are still distance and still allow you to uphold the safety of the community. So please look for those and know that kind of you will be stronger as a community if you hold everyone accountable to the same measures.
Hassan, do you have anything to add about ways to build community?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the class of 2024. We're so glad to have you. In terms of programming, DUU is doing a lot to ensure that incoming students can be involved. We have our first year internship program, which is still running. It'll be running virtually for now, but we're having interest meetings. We're having our GVM, which is going to be a week-long program for students to be able to get involved on Zoom and learn about our committees and what we're doing. The Weeks of Welcome is happening, and hundreds of student orgs are taking part in ensuring that there are not only interest meetings, but programming that you guys can do safely and socially distant. So I say, please, please, please keep abreast of all the things that you guys are seeing, all the emails you're getting with Weeks of Welcome. On Instagram, follow Duke Union on Instagram. Please follow Student Affairs, Student Engagement. All of these resources are here for you so you can see what is going on and how you can become involved students on this campus.
Thanks, Susan. We talked a lot about the Duke Community Standard. There's a great little Powtoon on the Office of Student Conduct website, about 2 minutes, that kind of runs through the Duke Community Standard. So I invite you to take a look at that. And I want to emphasize one thing before I turn it back over to Jordan Hale with New Student Programs. And that's something that Dean Blackshear said earlier. And it goes to this concept of community, that we believe that all of you, that we're all in community together, that you're all of our students. That's why we're here on this panel. And that we're not just involved when things go wrong. We're involved in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So please, please, please feel free to reach out to us. I know there's a number of questions in the chat that I may have missed because I cannot talk and read and work the chat at the same time. So Jordan, are there any major questions that you want us to address from the chat to this panel?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to the panel and thank you for students for participating. I think one of the biggest things students want to understand is ways to support the community by sharing information about other students who may not be following the compact, and what are the actual repercussions from that, because I think having some clarity around that would be helpful. So that would be the one thing that I would love you all could address.
So let me just speak a little bit about it generally, and then Dean Deb, maybe you can talk about how they can report when incidents are in the residence halls. So we have an email address, which is conduct@duke.edu. That report goes directly to the Office of Student Conduct, and we can follow up there. You can attach screenshots, pictures, or whatever, or you can give us a hyperlink to a website, and we will follow up. There's also a hotline number for COVID, and I apologize, I don't have it off the top of my head, but maybe Clay or Jordan can put it in the chat for everyone else to use. And then there's other channels and avenues that you can report incidents. I'll let you talk about that, Dean Deb.
Yeah, so in the residence halls, you can certainly report to your RA or report it to your RC. One of the things that we hope you do is if you see a peer who's not adhering to the compact, if you're comfortable, to address it. And there's a way to do so that's non-threatening. There's a way to do so, say, hey, dude, or whoever you're talking to, put on your mask. It was like Dean Blackshear said earlier, he had to ask a couple of students to pull their mask up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times. it's just a disrespectful thing. So if you're comfortable confronting your peers or carefronting your peers, do so. If you're not comfortable, then of course you can go to your RA and let your RA know. You can stealthily take a photograph and send it to conduct and say, this person's continuously walking around the halls not wearing their mask. We want to know that. There was a student in the chat earlier who said, what do I do when I see staff not wearing masks? We want to know that too. We've gotten reports of staff who aren't wearing their masks, and all of our folks should be wearing masks. I should always have on a mask. Our housekeeper should have on a mask. Our maintenance workers, our facility folks, everybody should always have on their masks if they're outdoors. So you have those opportunities to report to student conduct. And the last thing we want to do is send anyone home. But we have to do this compact together. For us to make this work, it has to be done together.
And if you don't mind me chiming in, I know that some folks have expressed concerns because it seems as though from the earlier moment students have arrived until now, we've sort of slipped to a norm of, fewer masks, but it was still relatively a lot of masks, but as well as the distancing. And then of course, there are things that are taking place in residence. And obviously there isn't an employee in every space on this campus, right? I mean, there are spaces where it's just you and your peers. And when there are folks who don't appear to be an authority there, we really do rely on integrity to help us, maintain the compact. And the questions have been consistent about why are we going to send people home? Okay, so people who are repeatedly putting this community at risk can't stay in the community. We are going to do everything we can to keep you here, but the best way to keep you here is for you to comply with the compact. And we've practiced a lot of grace up to this point, but we know that the way we've regressed, we can't continue in this direction. And I think you all are there. That's why we're getting these questions in the chat. You understand that, you see that we can't go this route. And so the answer to that question is, we are now at a place where we're going to be resetting our expectations for everyone. We have to, because you mean that much to us and we mean that much to each other, that we all have to take care of each other. And we expect, because we believe that each of you can do this. So I just wanted to just put that out there, that you understand that a part of the privilege of actually being able to be on this campus during a pandemic is that you have agreed to care in this way.
Thank you, Dean Blackshear, for bringing us home and wrapping us up. We are at 4:58. You all have a session with your pod squads starting at 5 o'clock, where you're going to walk through some case studies to continue to talk about the Duke Compact and, most importantly, how we can take care of each other. Thank you so much to the panelists, particularly the students. I know that this has been a lot for you all, so I really appreciate it. And to my staff colleagues, thank you all so very much. Orientation 2020 continues for the class of 2024 and other incoming students, including transfer and DKU. So we look forward to you all being a part of this community, and we will see you all soon.